But actually from the operating system perspective, it is basically divided into a lot of processes, and each process can also be broken down to threads, which we will be seeing in the next class tomorrow. Threading. So the operating system works with multiple processes. So it may be the process of the first program, the process of the second program. So see, this process may be from the first program. This process may be from the second program. But what is actually happening is the operating system is swapping, or not swapping, toggling or switching from multiple processes. For some time it will do P0. Then there will be an interrupt, it will go to P1. It will do P1 for some time, then it will go back to P0, then it may go to P2. So basically the CPU, the operating system is making the CPU switch from process to process, right? And these processes need not be from the same program, they need not be from the same user also. That is also quite possible, right? In a multi-processor environment. Then I also told you that we need to schedule processes, and for scheduling there are multiple queues. If there is a storage device like a hard disk, there is a queue. If there is a printer, there is a queue. Similarly, the processes that have to be executed, there is a queue. There is a ready queue. And all the ready queue, all the processes are linked together in the linked list with their process control blocks. I'm sure you know what a linked list is. Now, a process will go into the queue. It can immediately happen, or it can also be stalled. It can make another child process. It can interact with the child process. It can call a printer. It can do so many things that is possible. I also told you about the long-term scheduler and the short-term scheduler. Long-term scheduler, or the job scheduler, is probably firing every 10 seconds or 20 seconds or once in a minute. It is basically all the processes that have to be put in the queue, the ready queue. That is what happens. This fires every 1 minute or so and keeps all the processes ready in the ready queue, right? But the actual scheduling is happening not by the long-term or job scheduler, but by the CPU scheduler. The CPU does its own scheduling, and this fires every millisecond. In every millisecond, it is toggling between one process to the other. And this short-term scheduling is what is where the actual scheduling of the processes happen. Now, you can assign priorities. We will learn these scheduling algorithms later, but you can assign priorities. There is another type of scheduling called medium-term scheduling, where the CPU will swap. It will take one process, throw it to the memory, and bring another process back based on priority. We will learn swapping in detail in the subsequent classes. And this happens through what is known as a context switch. So this is what we studied. And I also told you that there are three processes. There are child processes. The parent and child may share a master-slave relationship, where everything that the parent does, the child does. It need not be so also. The child can have some attributes of the parent. The child can have no attributes of the parent. The child and parent can work together concurrently. The child can only work after based on what the parent instructs. So many options are available. And there are various primitives or kind of system calls for, like for creating a child, for killing or terminating the child, and so on. Fork process will create a child. Execute process will swap one child with another. Exit will close the delete the process. Wait will ask the child to wait till the parent is done. Abort will do. So many options are possible. So today we are going to see, current is gone. Today we are going to see what is known as inter-process communication, how the processes communicate with each other. That is what we are going to see today. Now, there are basically two types of processes. A process may be independent or cooperating. An independent process means they do not affect each other, but cooperating processes talk to each other, use shared variables, use shared memory, and pass messages with each other. And because of this processes that are cooperating or talking to each other, we need to have what is known as IPC, or inter-process communication, that is needed. And what happens in IPC? Either you have a shared memory or a memory message passing. In message passing, you have a process A, you have a process B. And the process A will send messages to B and vice versa, and that messages go in a queue. So process A may send a message like this, process B may send like this, A may send like this, and there is a queue for both these kind of messages. Another method is a shared memory. In a shared memory, both the process A and process B have a shared location. That is where they have share all the variables, and they have interactions and primitives that are there to use in the shared memory. So in that shared memory, the process A will provide global local variables, process B will also provide local variables. There will be calculations, computations and interactions in the shared memory area, but it is shared between process A, and this is the control of the process and process B, not the control of the operating system. Now I will come to this producer consumer problem in the end, but I want to also tell you, in the case of message passing, there are primitives that we use for message passing. There is a send message and a receive message. So process A will send something to B, process B will receive it. So whenever that process of message passing is happening, there are primitives that we use to take these messages. So the inter-process communication facility provides operations like send and receive. Send is sending a message, receive is receiving the message, and generally there is a communication link that is existing between the two. Now here one more thing we have to understand is, suppose we have more than one process. There is a slight complication here. So we are having a process, say P, Q and R. So we can also have the primitives in such a way that send P message. That means the message is only sent to P. Receive Q message. The message is received by Q. But sometimes when there are more than one processes, there becomes a complication. Because you are sending a message, it may go to all the people that it is actually intended for, all the processes in the system, and also the ones that are not intended for, because of the nature of the interconnection, the shared memory. So what you have to do is, even though we can have a mailbox approach, so P1, P2 and P3 will have a similar mailbox, but then the problem is, if P1 is sending a message, P2 will also receive, P3 will also receive. So what the one option is that all mailboxes should have only two processes. That is the ideal way. Because if a mailbox or a port will have more than two, it will become complicated. So ideally have every mailbox only associated with two processes, and then it is easier. So there is a port between P1 and P2, process 1 and process 2, they talk to each other. P2 and P3 have another port and they talk to each other. P2 will send, P3 will receive. When P2 sends the primitive send, P3 will invoke the receive primitive, and both of them talk to each other. This is the indirect communication. Now we can also do the kind of a synchronization of this communication. I'll give you an example. P1 is sending something to P2. P3 is also sending something to P2. So P2 is receiving from both P1 as well as P2. That is a complication. Even though P1 and P2 are connected by one link, P2 and P3 are connected by another link or another port, but still P3 cannot receive the both at the same time, right? So that actually that is the producer consumer problem. I will just come to that a little later. So what we can do is we can have a blocking send or a blocking receive. So blocking send means when somebody is expecting a message, when you are sending something, you are awaiting a message from someone, then you are not allowed to send till you receive that message, and vice versa. Blocking receive means the receiver is blocked until a message is available. But generally this is one way to have some sort of synchronization and communication. Now coming to the last aspect known as the buffering or the producer consumer problem. Now I will explain in a very simple way. Now you will have to, for your midterm exam and all, not midterm, I will tell you which exam, you will have to do some programming and doing some solution of this problem. Now simply speaking, I will explain the producer consumer problem in a very specific, simple example. Suppose your mom is making hot piping dosas for you. Everybody in the family is sitting on the dining table and waiting for the hot dosas to roll in, where your mother is making and providing you. Now there are 3 people or 4 people sitting in the in the dining table. Now your mother is the producer. The people sitting in the table, yourself, your siblings or your father is the consumer. Now the idea of a producer consumer problem is that there should be some logic by which the producer creates. The producer should create so much so that the consumer should be able to accept it. You are eating one dosa, immediately your mom brings another hot dosa. Hot dosa is very tasty. But you are eating one, you cannot consume the new dosa, right? Same case for your other people sitting on the dining table. So there is something called an unbounded buffer. Means you can go on, you are having unbounded buffer, means you go on giving me dosas. I have got the capacity to eat. So one dosa is coming, you bring the new dosa is coming, you start the new dosa. You have the capability. That is an unbounded buffer. A bounded buffer is what majority all of us have, that we have some limit. So there should be some arrangement such that the producer is producing and the consumers are able to consume. So that is a simple example, a simplistic example of the producer consumer problem. And in the producer consumer problem, it is same example. Your mom is going on making hot piping dosas. There are 3 people sitting, 3 or 4 people sitting in the dining table and consuming the dosas, but it should be consumed in such a way that you are able to consume it. It should not be overflow and the dosas should not go waste. This is simply speaking the producer consumer problem. We will see this in detail, and your end term exam, I am planning to not have any stories and theory and all. I am planning to have a programming or a programming exam where you actually do some programming using the languages that you have studied and try to do a simulation of some problems like the producer consumer. Anyway, there is a lot of time for that, so I'm just giving you a heads up on what you have to do. So I have some announcements. There are 3 people who have not submitted the yesterday's lab assignment. Please WhatsApp it to me today by the end of the day, and WhatsApp it. The link is dead. You can't access the link, so please WhatsApp it to me with your roll number so that I can mark that. Number 1. Number 2, 3rd chapter is also over. Tomorrow I am going to start the 4th chapter. But please be advised that the midterm, which is falling after 15th September, it will have the first 4 chapters. And for the midterm, I am not planning to have any programming assignment or something. I am going to have a slightly different approach. But my plan is to finish all the, I am only planning 4 quizzes for you. On coming Wednesday, you will have a quiz of this chapter, that is the chapter 3 on processes. And before the midterm, I am planning to also complete the 4 quizzes. The 4th quiz will be on the threading concept. It's a very small chapter. So I want to complete this before the midterm, so that then you are having absolutely no quizzes anymore. Your quiz part, that is 15%, is done. Programming also, assignments, I've completed 3 or 4, and then we will go for tests. So more or less your internal continuous evaluation is over, except for the lab lab test. That is the plan, so that you are free as early as possible. If I finish the syllabus early, I will leave you free also. So that is the thing. So please remember, next Wednesday you will have a quiz on this third chapter. Tomorrow I will start with the 4th chapter on threads, and the syllabus for the midterm will be the 1, 2, 3, 4. The first chapter, then operating system fundamentals, operating system structures, processes, and threads. That will be the 4 things for the midterm, and of course the Viva will also be based on that. I'm planning to have submissions rather than MCQ or objective fill in the blanks and all. In the midterm, my plan is to have some sort of upload or submission, but I will get back to you a little later. Let me take the attendance. Your class strength is 36, but somebody is absent. I have to take attendance. Yeah, somebody is absent. Yeah. Okay, answer your attendance. Ardra, Aaron, Ashika. Please raise your hands. Yeah. Others, now you unraise. Abhay, Aishwarya, Akash. Abhay, Aishwarya, Akash. Okay. Anjali, Ankita, Anne Maria. Anjali. Anjali, I see you, but I'm not seeing you raising your hands. Okay. Arundhati, Ashwin, Anand. Bhavana, Dhanushri, Dhruva. Okay. Dinesh, Kirtana, Priya, Krishnendu. Kritika, Lakshmi, Malavika. Kritika.
Sir, Kritika's presence.
Okay. Where did I lost this thing? Lakshmi, Malavika. Okay, fine. Niveda, Pranav, Prashant. Niveda, Pranav, Prashant. Okay. Sri Bala, Satyan, Shivada. Okay. Smriti, Sridhar, Amrit, Subodh. Varun Kumar, Chinmaya, Pavan. Varun Kumar. Nayana, Dhanushka, Sri Lakshmi. Okay. Okay, so we'll meet tomorrow. Okay, bye. See you tomorrow.